Hello, everybody. It's actually for me right now at this recording. It is Friday, February the 12th, and I am teeing this up for our Saturday briefing for tomorrow that I'll be sending out to the amazing ministerial team of the North Central region and to many of our friends and supporters around the country and the world. So anyway, God bless you. Old man Winter has definitely lifted his head, his gray beard, his frost-bitten beard. In the last few days, we've had a mild winter, but old man Winter's coming back with a vengeance now. I think the high for today in Bismarck is going to be about -3, and so that's the high. And so it's kind of cold around here. I want to welcome Brother Blair. David Blair is here. We have a youth event, a regional youth event that's beginning tonight, and Brother Blair is our International Director of Youth and Discipleship, and came up here. God bless you, my dear friend. Came up to be the keynote speaker there, so we welcome you to the North Central region. And I'm going to try to catch lunch with him in just a little while. And we were chatting earlier this morning, and when he was talking about when he got off the plane last night, and that North Dakota cold hit him, and so he's getting a real North Dakota experience here. You know, when people come in the summer, our summers are paradise, but they are a little colder in the winter. And so if you really want to get the true, full experience, you do need to come in January or February. And but it's good. I tell you, it's invigorating, and it's an adventure living in North and South Dakota and in Montana. Matter of fact, Sanjay and I are heading out here in a little while this afternoon after we get through with lunch with Dr. Blair. We will be heading to Montana and intend to, Lord willing, be ultimately on Sunday at the Abundant Life Church with Pastor Mosslander and that great congregation there, and ministering for the weekend. So we're looking forward to that. Got a lot of miles to go. So anyway, let me jump into a few remarks today. I want to give you 3 of my rules for life. I don't necessarily recommend NCIS, I think is what it's called, but maybe you've heard of Gibbs rules. He was one of the stars on that television program, and I went through a spell and watched several of those, and it's really interesting. And old Gibbs, he'd have these rules, Gibbs rules, and remember rule number whatever, and I don't know, that intrigued me, and so I began to write down my rules for life. I do try to make principle-led decisions. The more you can, this is the principle that I am going to make my decision from, instead of making emotional decisions. And I've had to learn that over the years, and I try to attach my decisions to one of my rules for life, one of my principles. So today, excuse me, I'm going to share with you 3 of Kemp's rules. And so let me just jump into them. The first one, just working through, and this is one of my rules for life, big time. And here it is. Every person is my superior in some way. Every person is my superior in some way. Let me give you an example. This really came to fruition in my life at my first church. You've heard me talk about Saluda over the years, and there was a gentleman there, and I don't know what's happened to him over the years, but there was a gentleman there who his name was Murray, and I don't even remember Murray's last name. And Murray could have been his last name, like sometimes we call each other by our last name. But Murray was one of the most unique and eccentric guys I have ever known in my life. And he was a single guy, lived alone, lived on Main Street in a little apartment up above a store in that little town, that little southern town, Saluda. But he came to church. He loved the Lord. He was such a unique guy. He had no rhythm whatsoever, but he loved to sing. He had no pitch. He had no ear for music. As pastors, we've probably all had a few people like this in our life, and you have to, be kind and gracious without killing everybody else. But anyway, so he would get up and maybe sing "Amazing Grace," "Amazing," and he'd frown. I mean, it was an incredible, painful, and difficult experience sometimes to hear him sing. And so I'd have to be careful when I'd do it. But everybody loved Murray, and we'd go to the nursing home. He'd go with us to the nursing home and minister over there, and be banging on a tambourine, singing out of pitch. It was and playing the tambourine out of rhythm. It was quite an experience. But I remember one day that the federal authorities came to Saluda because there was an illegal FM radio station broadcasting. Well, long story short, Murray figured out how to transmit radio waves, FM radio waves, and was transmitting from his upstairs apartment. And it was going out, not super far, but it was going out a good ways. And he was preaching the gospel and reading scriptures and singing, and people didn't know where it came from. And they traced Murray down and found out who it was. And they were merciful, and they had to shut it down. But that was amazing to me, and that's when it dawned on me: there is more to Murray than I'm giving him credit for. And the more that I listened to him and dug in and took him serious, the more I realized that being eccentric, being different, it does not make you less than. And then I could go on, and I could give you people that we would call maybe mentally handicapped and all kinds of handicaps. But I have learned over the years that everybody is my superior in some way. I can learn from them. And some of the most severely handicapped people that I've ever been privileged to serve amazed me and humbled me and taught me lessons in life. Now, here's the punchline that I want to leave to us as people that have devoted ourselves to ministry. We treat people the way we see them. When we respect people, we treat them differently. And people know if you don't respect them. People can pick up if you do not take them serious. They can pick up on that, and you cannot consistently lead them if they know you don't really love them and don't really respect them. And of course, you may be superior in some ways. Your communication skills, you can out-talk people. Sometimes you can out-reason people. But everybody is your superior in some way. And when we remember that, we treat them different. And I can't tell you, it's almost habit to me when I come up to somebody, when I'm talking to somebody, I will say, one of the first things I will say to myself, this person is my superior in some way. And I am looking for them to teach me about life. So anyway, one of Kemp's rules that I live and die by is everybody is my superior in some way. It helps me to treat people better. And I sure have learned a lot that way. So anyway, here's my second rule. I'm going to share 3 with you today. All right. Eventually, all we have in life is memories. Therefore, I shall be memorable by exceeding expectations. Okay, think about it. Eventually, all we're going to have is memories. We can get so caught up in the moment and so caught up in the now. But another little segue with this is people are going to forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And those memories, creating memorable moments, good memorable moments by exceeding expectations is huge. Let me give you off the beaten path kind of example. But You may have heard of the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead, there's this long-term rock band that had these devoted followers that followed them all over the country. They sold millions of dollars of tickets. You know, they only had one single hit, top 40 hit in their long career, just one. But they had millions of fans that followed them faithfully. And this is what their producer, their promoter said, Bill Graham. He said, they are not the best at what they do. They're the only ones that do what they do. And that has just stayed with me. I remember on another occasion, and I won't call his name, but a very well-respected leader that I had a good relationship with, and it was in my earlier years. And I didn't know, when you bring in a guest, what kind of honorariums do you give? You know, I didn't know, what's the benchmark? And so I remember I could take you to the spot, and I asked him, I said, you know, what kind of honorariums do I get? How do I do this? And he looked at me, he said, David, he said, people will always remember the largest honorarium, and they'll always remember the smallest honorarium. All the ones in the middle are just forgotten. And then, not in a belligerent way, but I'll never forget, he reached out and pushed me on the chest with his finger. He said, David, be memorable. I never forgot that. Be memorable. And I want to be memorable. I don't want to be one of those that remember going somewhere and that small or no honorarium. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that every time they thought of me and thought of my church, they said, now that is a first-class act. That is a generous guy. It was a joy and a privilege being there. And so I can't overemphasize when we're ministering to our people, if it's a service, it's a program, if it's a meal for you, it may be just another lunch. But for them, you're their pastor. You're an important person in their life. Do what you can to make it memorable. I hate to use the word competition, but there's a lot of options. Maybe that's a better word. It's not that we're in competition with other churches or other ministries, but there are a lot of options. On any given Sunday, on any given day, there's a lot of options besides church and ministry that your people that are pulling on your people. But the one advantage that you have over every other option, Christian options and worldly options, spiritual or secular, the one thing that you have, the one advantage that you have is your touch. And so I want to encourage you, at the end of the life, all we're going to have is memories. Let's make good memories for our people. Be memorable in a positive, in a generous, in a lavishly loving way. Let's make good memories for our people. All right? And then number 3, this is so important that I have learned over the years. All right, here it goes. People are not willing to listen or follow until their expectations have been met. Now, sometimes we leaders can be high octane leaders, and we come into a church and we go into a Sunday, we step into a meeting, and we're just ready to go. We know what we want to do. We know what we want to achieve. We know the problem we want to solve. We know the mission we want to accomplish, and we just plow on in. But when you came to that church, those people had certain expectations of what a pastor should do and should be. On a particular Sunday, people may come in and God only knows what they're dealing with and what has happened between this Sunday and last Sunday, and they've got expectations. They come to church. When they go to a meeting, especially when you're working with volunteers, they think you care about them. They think you appreciate them. They think that you know what they're doing. And so you've always got to take time to have the humility to listen, to take the temperature, to get a feel How are things going? You listen to your people. That's why it's so important. I try to make 5 or 6 relationship calls every day, not just returning calls, but making calls. And you do that every day, you begin to get a feel for what's going on in your congregation, for what's going on in the world. You're listening, you're asking questions. What are you thinking? Tell me what you see. And you're listening to people, and it gives you a feel. You can meet their expectations. And once their expectations have been met, then they're willing to listen to you because they feel like you care. You understand them. And they're willing to listen, and they're willing to follow. I remember a great example of this is when I went to Fort Mill, a large church. And as we began to grow, there were people in the hospital. We had hospitals all over the place. We had several hospitals in Charlotte and Rock Hill, in Chester, in Columbia. I mean, I could have spent every day, all day, visiting in the hospitals. And so there came a tipping point that I just couldn't visit everybody. And so what I had to land on, because some people don't expect the pastor to visit, but years ago, the benchmark, this is another little side issue, but every church, every organization, but they have the benchmark of what is the gold standard. And so at Fort Mill, the gold standard benchmark was C.R. Spain. Brother Spain was the pastor that many of the people, especially that had been there a while, they measured every other pastor by Brother Spain. And Brother Spain, what he would do, like for instance, the church grew under his ministry. That's when it kind of got on the map. And matter of fact, I think he left from there and went into administrative work. It was a highly respected church. And so, but what he would do, for instance, every Sunday morning, he'd get up early and go from door to door, knocking on doors, waking people up. He'd sit down and eat breakfast with them. He'd probably eat 20, 30, 40 breakfasts every Sunday morning, and just drumming up business, getting people out of bed and getting them in church. They were used to that hands-on contact from their pastor. That was their expectations. That's what a good pastor did. And so I came up with this rule. When I found out someone was in the hospital, if they were members when I got there in 1995, I went because I understood that was the expectation. It didn't matter if I was busy. It didn't matter if I had a million other things to do. It didn't matter if the church had tripled before I got there. It didn't matter that I had a staff. It didn't matter that I had a pastoral care director who would go. They wanted to see their pastor. And so I would try to go and visit them. Now, other people, we made sure that everybody was touched and everybody was visited, but we had other people that could go. But I had to realize people are not willing to follow. They're not willing to listen to me until their expectations have been addressed and met. And I think Christian leadership, we have to acknowledge that. And there's times that we can't meet people's expectation, but they've got to at least see us trying. Or there's times that we're not willing to meet their expectations. And that may be a case where it is the right thing for us to do is for us to leave, not to run them off from their church because we've got a dream of what we think they ought to be. Maybe we should be the ones to say, look, my vision is bigger or different than your vision. I love you. We're going to go to heaven together. We're going to be brothers and sisters forever. But I'm going to go somewhere where my vision fits better. And you're doing them a service. That to have the humility to realize that it's not about what I want to achieve first. It's about shepherding these people. I like one of my hallmark scriptures is Isaiah 40:11, where God describes himself as a shepherd. He said, he will feed his flock like a shepherd. I will gather the lambs in my arms and carry them in my bosom and gently lead those who are with young. In other words, he was going to go at the pace of the people. He was going to realize that some were weak and young, and maybe their expectations were not realistic. And then others that were fragile. They were pregnant with possibilities and dreams, but they couldn't go at the speed that we would like for them to go. And the shepherd, Father God, said, I am going to go at the pace of the people. God can go faster than the speed of light, but people can't. So those are 3 rules, that Kemp's rules. People are not willing to listen or follow until their expectations have been met. Eventually, all we have in life is memories. Therefore, I shall be memorable by exceeding expectations. And everyone is my superior in some way. So there you go. 3 rules that I try to live by. Hope you guys have a great day, great weekend. Tell your people you love them. Thank them for their faithfulness. If you got to preach on hell, preach like you don't want them to go, not like you want them to go. Love you guys and gals. Thank you for all you do. God bless you. We'll see you around the bend. Those of you in Butte, Montana, we'll see you, Lord willing, in just a couple days. Take care now. Bye-bye.